Welcome, everyone, to Ladies' #1 Detective Agency, Clearing the Paranormal. This is Season 2, Episode 4. I'm joined today by my co-host, Janet Graham. Bill Johnston, our other co-host, will not be joining us today. Today is April 9th, 2025, and the title of this episode is What the Skunk is Going On? We were to have Monica and Richard on this show. However, their lives got very busy and we will have to defer their interview for another time in the future. Welcome, Janet. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, Aimee. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. So
Well,
for
I'm sure people are going to be very curious about the skunk.
the skunk story, it's a
This skunk.
fabulous story. It's an
It
amazing
is.
story.
It's remarkable.
It is remarkable. Anyways, today we decided to invite our business women's group for tea and chat about the unleashed wild and wacky happening on the human, global, and galactic level. The name of our group is Women Unlimited, and this group consists of myself, Janet, Lorianne, and Suzanne. Welcome, ladies. Why don't we start by letting you two introduce yourselves? Lorianne, let's start with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me along, Aimee, and hello, Janet and Suzanne. It's great to be here. So I am Lorianne, and I am a Reiki master and a hypno therapist, and I have been noticing that things have been a little wild and wacky in my world. I also work in education, so it's been quite a cross section of interesting days and interesting clients. So, yeah, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Lorianne and Suzanne.
Hi, well, I'm Suzanne, and I've been doing astrology charts with people, and I find the practice of astrology extremely interesting. And some of the things I think that are happening are because of all the major shifts that are happening in the sky, which of course impact us here on Earth. And I know we'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for agreeing to be on the show. There's so much to unpack in this episode. I really had a hard time trying to figure out where to even start. March, I think you can all attest to, was a pretty brutal month. What do you think, ladies? What was your experience with March?
Everyone is going whack-a-doodle. There is so many crazy things happening.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the phone calls I've been getting. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like you hear stories that you never thought you would hear.
I know.
And
I know.
it's like, oh my good Lord, what's going to happen next? You know, it's like people are experiencing things they never thought that would happen to them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and the
so
whole, like, I know we're going to get into the astrology part after. I don't know if we're going to go back as far as into March, but definitely part of the eclipse energy was to expose things and bring things to light. And I'm telling you, some of the things, I was just sitting there listening, so stunned. And on one hand, because this person is going through trauma and having this terrible experience, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, wow, this is really interesting and cool. Like, it's actually happening. Like, this stuff is actually, it's real. It's bringing all this stuff up for examination, and the truth is coming out, and exposure, and then just weird things, people just doing off the wall weird things. So what about
yeah, and
Suzanne? And oh, sorry, Janet, go ahead.
it's okay. I just get overwhelmed because it's like you're all of a sudden you're noticing certain people in your life and you're going, oh my God, I put up with that. Why? Maybe it's time to let that person go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and seeing and looking at yourself differently and going, I don't deserve that kind of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just walk away here. So a lot of people are experiencing that, and they're seeing the truth about these people, and they're going, okay, no, no, no. Why didn't I see that? Why did everybody else see that, but not me?
Mm-hmm.
It's like your eyes are being wide open now.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Suzanne, Lorianne, did you guys have anything to add?
Well, I was going to say with the eclipses and bringing up that relationship piece, over the past year and a half, the eclipses have been in the Aries Libra axis, which is Aries is the self and Libra is relationships. So we've been on a whole reevaluation and introspection for the past year and a half on who we are and who we surround ourselves with and whether or not that aligns and makes us feel good and supported or the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said.
And
Yeah.
we just had our last solar partial solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th. And that was the last of the cycle, but the energy of that's gonna still go at least 6 months, possibly to a year.
Right.
So people are still gonna be in that
Processing.
energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lorianne, did you have anything that you wanted to share about what was going on in your world in March?
Sure, it has been very, very dynamic. Really
Oh, can you
unexpected.
turn your volume up a little bit, Lorianne? Can't hear you very well. Thanks.
Oh, okay. So it's been, is that better?
Yep.
It's been very dynamic. A lot of the young people that I work with, their relationships have been very traumatic, and their eyes are getting open and they're experiencing things they didn't think they would experience. I think that there's a big difference too with what the males are experiencing and versus what the females are experiencing in terms of that masculine and feminine energy. So that's been, and I'll put that forward to you and maybe get your input on that as well a little later on.
Well,
So,
I was very
yeah, for
curious
sure.
about that because of course we are integrating. I mean, we could talk forever about, all the other, it's so complex, everything that's happening, to us, to our diamond sun human body. But part of that is that integration between the male and the female energies, because we all have that, the herogamic union, as Lisa Renee calls it, between our masculine and feminine energies, to put it on a very, very simplistic level. So with all this chaos going on, I had a client come in who's in a community, a small community, and I said, because he was talking about all the chaos going on in his life and the people around him. And I said, I'm just curious, do you notice that it's the men that are experiencing in this more, or the women, or equally? And his observation was that it was equal, pretty equal. However, he felt that the men were having a much harder time integrating, and that most of them aren't even aware that that's what they're doing, but they're having much more difficulty dealing with it because we're in Aquarius too. It's emotions. It's all about, and everything's coming up, right? So, yeah, so that was an interesting piece of it. I wondered if the men, and it seemed some of the calls that Janet was getting, a lot of the issues. Now, of course, you're hearing there's always two sides to a story, and you're talking to the female and hearing about the male.
Yeah, but
it
I've
seemed,
also heard from the men.
oh, there you go. So
So
yeah. So it just seems, yeah, I think that's a good observation. So I was trying to really think about how to make this a little bit simpler to talk about today. And I think there's really 4 areas. And I mean, it's every aspect of our life. So it's what's happening in our physical reality around the world, which just seems to be insane. The impact of the astrological energies and influences, not only on our physical bodies, but our light bodies. And that spiritual warfare that is playing out unseen, but felt, whether you realize it or not. And this bifurcation of time is all tied into that. And then for ourselves, every single person is coming online with their own personal mission, their reason for being here, all of their gifts. And I think that's also adding to people's anxiety and stress, because there's so many people out there that this might be happening to, but they might not realize what's happening to them, and they haven't a clue where, so they have no awareness. And then as they're going through it, they don't know who they can reach out or talk to, and just as a small example, I mean, I've had 2 clients that, were at the hospital with supposed heart issues, only to find out there was nothing wrong with their hearts at all. They were being psychically attacked, and their bodies, the light bodies, were just changing and shifting with these new energies. So there was no medical issue. It was just something that was happening with their heart as they were going through these changes. To say it in I don't know how else to say it. Anyways, so March into April has been chaos, expulsion of people, places, and things, explosion, chaotic energy, people's lives turned upside down. So I just wanted to share a quote from Lisa Renee, Energetic Synthesis. So just bear with me as I'm reading through this. So self-determination is a process by which a person has the freedom to control their own life, their own body, their own mind, their own soul and spirit. Otherwise said, to live and be true to yourself, to live naturally as you are, as God or divine design created you, not as what somebody else wants you to be. The right to self-determine is considered to be a major threat by the Antichrist forces, which fills the lower dimensions with negative emotional content, of which dark ignorance is buried in the unconscious streams. This is being weaponized to divide and conquer. I would say divide and conquer is the main theme these days, and create separation between us, because these indeed are the dark walls of separation. Thus, every unconscious stream filled with clouds of dark ignorance that resonates with the negative alien agendas invading reptilian mind, which is basic survival consciousness that exists unhealed inside people, places, and things. The enemy of humanity is using this unknown element of destabilization and fear of the unknown to incite victim, victimizer, red wave, collective, archetypal dramas, never can say that word right, everywhere they can, to divide and conquer, to sow doubt and fear, to feed demonic voices and the vices of the Antichrist, all of the worst of the predator mind, of the negative ego that exists inside of people. Many of these unhealed shadows are becoming surfaced in people, in which results in sometimes people appearing that they're becoming unhinged. They can flip out into lunatic behaviors as the result of controlled, oriented tantrums. This is surfacing now regularly as people lose control of situations in their lives that they were manipulating. When they lose control, they're exploding in tantrums, and thus at this time, many of these people are being severed from our lives. Whether they are family, coworkers, friends, colleagues, there's no further path to travel with people, with groups, with things that want to exert control over you, that desire to manipulate or siphon your energy from out of you. Those people that want to use coercion or mind games to get you to do things that benefit them in a selfish way. Usually those with severe insecurity, a lack of self-love, fall into the playing out of these power games, superiority games, in order to feel better about themselves. Sometimes it's for monetary benefit, as the controller system rewards this inverted system of the mainstream satanic forces, those at the top that manipulate and control others, that want to use flashy advertisements or other ways to exploit others for monetary reasons. Therefore, this is the time to pay attention to the war over your divine right to there's another war, to personally own your own life, which allows you the spiritual growth and room to find the balance to greater energetic coherence and overall health of your body, mind, and spirit. As we are being targeted with aggressive military-grade negative alien invasion spiritual warfare, this is taking place through psychological warfare, emotional warfare, information warfare. All of this onslaught is being weaponized and then directed to us on the surface. And it's designed to destabilize us and to moving forward in our lives. Thus, we all must work on self-mastery skills sets for greater self-assessment in which to move ourselves into better forms of energetic stability by focusing on the strength of the core self, the inner Christ spirit. So ladies, any comments on what Lisa had to say? She had so much more to say, but I can fit it in here.
Well, you're talking, and as you're reading it all, in my head is the Beatles song, "Love, Love, Love. All you need is love."
Yes.
It's easy,
Mhm.
and it's like the politicians are making it difficult. It's not what the people want. The people want peace. They want calm. They want love.
Yeah.
And this is just, it gets beyond the ridiculous of how much further we can control everybody. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, just love, just be kind, just talk to one another. It's just nuts.
Absolutely. Suzanne?
Well, it made me think about this quote, and I used to use this quote with my clients when I was a therapist, and it's, when you're feeling out of control, when you're feeling that lots of change is happening, and change is hard as it is, but it's happening on every level now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot to take. And so I love this quote: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And that's by Viktor Frankl. And he was a Holocaust survivor, and he became a psychiatrist.
Yeah,
And
I've
so
heard
I
that
used
quote.
to
Wonderful.
write,
Mhm.
I used to write down for people this quote. And then in the middle, it's like, breathe and practice.
Mhm.
And even taking one step back, that little movement clicks a shift in your brain rather than that just reactive mode.
Mhm.
But it's something you have to practice.
And I think what's making it even more difficult, and I didn't get into this for this podcast because again, it's almost another topic on its own. But excuse me, the right now, the spiritual warfare piece of it, those controllers, the AI piece of it, the dark entities, whatever you want to call them, negative alien agenda, they are mad as hatters right now, and they are doing everything possible to take advantage of this energy, amplify it, and the people are being bombarded with it's psychological warfare. They are using people, places, things, events to create all this chaos and havoc in everybody's life. So not only are we just dealing with all the changes, the astrological changes, the earth changes, the ascension changes, but we're also being so attacked that it becomes very difficult for people to go, okay, how do I discern that, I'm not getting just, all this stuff dumped on me to start a fight with my husband, and how do I know that this is a real thing that's happening and it's time for me to leave my husband? Do you see what I mean? So the more of that inner strength, core strength that you have, and that if you have any unhealed trauma or wounds there, these entities are just latching onto that. And I'll just call them entities. There's other aspects of it. It's just easier term, and just creating even more chaos in our lives. So
let's
even
face it,
more important, what you're saying, Suzanne, is having that pause in between. Go ahead, Lorianne.
I was just thinking that one of the things that happens to us when we feel like everything is out of control and everything is spinning around us is we strive really hard to control something.
Mhm.
We strive to have something that we can feel like we have some power over or some say. And sometimes that manifests itself in being particular, like when you said about relationships, drawing lines and making it like, okay, well, not knowing for sure whether it's, you know, coming from me or coming from somebody else, but you may feel driven to make a decision because you just need to, because
Right.
everything else is kind of going crazy.
Yeah. And it could be that it had everything, people, places, and things. Those things for you are now of no value in your life. Not value, wrong word. They are not meant to go with you on the next stage of your journey through this bifurcation. So if that's the case, then you have to be in a position to be able to discern that, and then be willing to go through. It's not easy if you're, there's all kinds of things. What was I going to say? Because I just thought of something else. Sorry. My usual thing. No, I was just thinking of someone we were talking to last night, and how she said, she got together with her family, and she had gone through this whole huge change, energetic change. And she knew, like, to me, it was a soul exchange, that, for lack of a better definition. And she felt strange being around her family, who she normally has, she never feels that. She's very close to her family. And she was feeling that distance and not wanting to be around people who weren't on the same level. So she's already starting to feel that change, and that can create a place of loneliness for someone, because if it's family and if it's somebody you don't want to lose, but you have to let them go, that can be a hard thing. But we have to also know that on the other side of that, there's something much better waiting for us. So anyway. Okay. Yeah, it's so much going on. So we talked about the astrology a little bit. So maybe Suzanne, if you could jump in here and just tell us what's actually coming up and what's happening, what's going to be influencing us, because the astrology, where the planets are, the sun, the moon, it all impacts our energetic bodies, our physical body, and Mother Earth itself. I mean, just look at the weather, the earthquakes, all the other chaos that's happening on our beautiful planet. So I'll let you take it from here.
Well, the two that I focused on for today was, Pluto in Aquarius. Well, Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius back in 2023 for a few months, and then in 2024 for 9 months. And now, as of the end of 2024, November 19th, 2024, until 2044, so that's for the next 20 years, Pluto's in Aquarius. Pluto is the planet of intense transformation, and Aquarius is about, it's the dichotomy between uniqueness, your unique individual self, and then the community and humanity. So it's like, knowing or discovering your unique gifts and how you can share those unique gifts within a community, and finding your community. For example, like us.
Yes.
The four
Yeah.
of us being in this, business group together and having these kinds of conversations. That's an example. We each have our unique gifts. We're aware of some of them, and I know we're all going to continue discovering more. And we found each other and to share that with. So that's an example of Pluto and Aquarius in general, and how more and more it's going to expand over the next 20 years. And that's from, you know, an idealistic and, you know, prayerful way that I choose to see it. I know when listening to other astrologers, they also bring up the other sides of things, like, you know, Aquarius is also about technology and getting too more into technology and things like that. But that's on another aspect. And then recently, Neptune, the planet of spirituality, imagination, dreams, creativity, went into Aries on March 30th of this year, 2025, so recent. That may be a cause for some of these shifts that you've been seeing in people, only because it's Aries is more in your face realizations. So Neptune on the negative aspect could be about illusions and deceptions. So people in general could be becoming more aware of what they've maybe thought of, the way something operated or was, or, you know, not just people, but, you know, structures like the education system and the government and all that, and like having a certain illusion maybe around certain things, and then realizing, wait a second, what did I used to think about that? And then it's, you know, for some people it can be extremely difficult if it's the first time that they haven't had that thought or realization. And then on the flip side, the nice thing about Neptune being in Aries is that we can become more discerning and assertive about what we believe in, and how we want to lead and create this world.
Wow. Yeah, and it's interesting that both of those aspects were during wars, correct?
Yeah, Pluto and Aquarius. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the American Revolution in the 1700s. And the last time Neptune was in Aries was in the 1800s during the American Civil War.
Wow.
So, and now we have them both together for the next, because Neptune in Aries is going to be there for 14 years, the next 14 years. And then Pluto in Aquarius is the next 20 years.
Wow. So right now, if you look at the language right now too, it's all about revolution and war too. So that's interesting. Yeah.
But on this end, it's going to be, well, we're hoping, praying that it's going to be more of a spiritual evolution.
It will be.
And
we're not hoping, it will be. No hoping.
The North Node is in Pisces, which is our universal mission for, you know, about the next year and a half till July 2026. And that, you know, is very spirit led and about compassion and empathy and dreaming and music and creativity and art. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
It can be really good. It can be really good, but it's up to us.
It's up to us. Yes.
Yeah.
To us.
All right. Thank you. Lorianne, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us about what's happening in your world? Like when you think about everything we've been chatting about so far?
Well, when we were talking about the male and female energy.
Oh, we can't hear you again. Sorry.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to take off this microphone. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things with the male and female energies is that they're coming across differently, but for all the males, they seem to be very ego driven, and there's anger, they have their tempers. There isn't, it's not a calm, peaceful approach to anything. And there's a lot of it's almost like a demanding. They're so confused. They just want to feel better, and they're not feeling like themselves, and they're not feeling right. And the females, interestingly, seem to be very emotional, in that they're coming into their own idea of how they want to be treated, their own idea of what is right and wrong. And they seem to be at the same spot too with respect to their relationships, the ones that I'm coming across as well, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The females are changing, and the males are having a hard time shifting.
Right.
Even if they think, yeah, that makes sense, this isn't right, I should be doing something different, or doing it differently, and maybe taking that pause and breathing, and it's not happening. They can't seem to get their head wrapped around it. And they also don't know why, because
Right.
they don't know why they're so unsettled. They don't know why they can't meet in the middle anymore.
Well, and
So
don't you think so much of this has to do with the patriarchal society, how they've been, like, the way that men have been raised and expected to be?
Mhm.
And then if it starts to shift and change, it must just leave them in quicksand. What do you do? Where do you turn?
Yeah,
What do you be?
yeah,
What am I supposed to be? You know?
yes. Oh, for sure. And there's been a lot of shifts in roles recently, but for some reason it's just been super intense. Well,
Mhm.
we know the reason, but it's been
Yes.
super intense
Yeah.
right now, and quick. I feel like these changes have been quick, and they can't catch up. They can't
Yeah.
process. Um,
Hmm. Well, thank
it's
you. Thank you, Lorianne. Appreciate that. Anybody else have anything to share on that? Okay. So in the midst of all of this chaotic, let's switch over to what's happening in the global world, our physical reality here. President Trump ordered the release of the JFK files, and this has sent a ripple of shock through the world as people come to terms with the fact that the conspiracy theorists were right. Not only was the US government involved with the murder, but so were multiple of other countries and groups, all of which the US government knew about. And on a spiritual level, there is a connection. JFK was actually another one of those multi-dimensional beings that was sent here to change this prison planet we live on. And his murder was actually a timeline trigger event, as what they call that, as was the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the 9/11 event, which was also US government action, and then the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So in Canada, we're being threatened by Mark Carney, bringing in his New World Order. I'm sure that's not what he calls it. And then we had our own Ontario election, which was a total waste of time. We're not even going to talk about that. And now we have these trade wars on, and tariff wars, and war, and retaliation. And, not one speech about, oh, gee, maybe with these tariffs coming up, we should be looking internally at what happened to us, which is similar to the US. They gave away all their manufacturing. In fact, Bill and I were just talking the other day about how, he had been talking to one of the suppliers about lumber and said, well, at least Canada has all this lumber. And the guy said, well, no, all our lumber companies are American owned. I said, what? So I wonder, like, I bet most Canadians don't understand how much foreign occupation we have in this country. Anyways, I don't want to go on that tangent for any longer because Janet has a great story to share with us that is a perfect metaphor for what we see happening globally. And maybe an answer is in the story. Janet, I'll turn it over to you.
This is very interesting. Okay. A friend of mine, we've been friends like 26 years. Anyways, where she lives, she has this rental property. And they got a call from the people that were renting saying, oh, we have a problem with there's skunk and everything smells skunk inside the house. There's never, ever, ever been any skunks in that part of the town ever. And so her husband went to check it out, tried all kinds of things to get the skunk out, could not get this skunk out, and it was wicked. And then he thought, okay, I'm going to go talk to the Amish because I'm sure they know something. And so he talked to the fella and brought him to the house. And the fella said, no, don't worry. He went under the house, okay, into that crawl space, started whistling and singing. And the skunk just comes right out, okay? Just like following the music like the Pied Piper. And the guy says, I want to bring the skunk home with me. And, my friend's husband said, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. You can have it. So it's like, he says, yeah, they love music. They love peace. The skunk is all about being in control, right? This is their territory. They're not afraid of anybody. And it's like, if you are going to, scare me, then I will spray and you will pay.
Yeah,
So,
big time.
yeah, if you really think about it that way.
Well, and
And
the other thing too is she said he went in there calmly,
yep,
confidently, and peacefully into the space.
exactly. And I mean, he had just finished his dinner. So I'm sure he didn't want to taste anything like skunk odor. And so he peacefully got that skunk out, brought it to his farm. It was all fine. Then a couple of days ago, they got a call again. Okay, we got a skunk. So they figured that it was the mate to the other skunk, and it was actually stuck in one of the pipes. And so he just tapped the pipe, and the skunk just started getting out of there. And he was whistling to it and singing to it, and it just come out, and he just got that skunk, brought that skunk home too. So Mr. and Mr. Skunk are happy on another farm, but it tells us about peace, right?
Well, and the
Be
thing
in that
is,
peaceful place.
think about anybody who has a skunk. They try violent acts to get rid of the skunk, right? It's always a violent, or, I mean, there are people who try to, nudge him
Yeah.
away and stuff like that, but a lot of people will call to get them trapped. I know my brother had a whole family of skunks living under his back porch, and he tried everything to get rid of them, and he couldn't, so he had to just leave them there. Was a constant concern. Are we going to get sprayed? Oh. And Suzanne, I think you looked up what the spiritual meaning of the skunk was. So we thought that was really good.
Well, I was gonna say too, I like this story because it's a good story to represent that whole Neptune and Aries, because the Amish man's was in his power.
Mm-hmm.
Skunk was in its power.
Yes.
And then they met each other with respect
Mm-hmm.
and compassion. and harmony.
Yes.
True.
And then
The skunk said,
Uh,
hey, I'll go home with you.
a peaceful resolution.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
think it goes back to that whole idea of that power and control, and or thinking control is power,
Mm-hmm.
or aggression is
Is
power.
power. Right.
And that was a great, I love the skunk story because it's a great example of how what true power is.
Exactly. Well said. Very well said. Because think about what they're talking about out there right now. I mean, I'm not on social media. I know you guys are, so I can't even imagine what is out there in that land. But what I have picked up, here and there is that there's no word of a negotiation. All it is retaliation, and all the words are war, war, war words, violent words, aggressive words, and I think I read an article recently from this gentleman who is saying, we're not even realizing how this is impacting our children. Because our children are hearing this. They're hearing it, they see it. And his young daughter, came up and said, afraid that we were at war. And, he had, wow, that took him back. And then he had to really think about it. And it's the language that's being used. It's the positioning, it's the posturing too of these men, mostly men. Sorry, guys, I'm not trying to pick on you. The last stand of the male energy, instead of that, like it takes nature to teach us a lesson, right?
True.
And, yeah, but there's not going to be any war. I hate bringing up politics, but this isn't about politics. This is about, living a different way, being a different way, letting these old systems die down. And, we're in the end game and God wins this time. So it might be hard for us to see that right now, but and they're really, really trying to focus on riling up all the fear, all the uncertainty, all the doubt, so that they can just continue on with not taking us on a timeline of peace and unity, but of destruction. So, but they're not going to get there.
No.
So,
No. It's all good. It's all going to turn out better than we think. It's just people are going to have to think and think of it as, somebody really ticks you off, and the first thing you do is you're in their face. Well, what if somebody ticked you off, you look at them and smile and say, well, I hope you enjoy your opinion, but that's not mine. Gotta go. Bye-bye.
yeah.
What about that?
Or blow them a kiss.
Have a lovely day.
Have a lovely day. Have a fabulous day.
Exactly. Exactly. Then they'll just look at you like, okay, she's cucaracha, and just keep smiling.
Oh, well, we were talking earlier about the importance of singing and laughing and how they took that all away from us in COVID. Like, Suzanne, did you want to kind of take that one?
I found that out when my daughter had come home and said that choir had been canceled because they weren't allowed to sing because they could catch it.
That's just crazy.
Way singing. And singing is, as we know, is extremely important. And I was thinking about that skunk and just thinking we need to stand firm in our power and our perseverance, our faith, until we hear our song.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move.
Mm-hmm.
And not out of fear, but from our song when we hear our true song.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Exactly. Bring back the bells. Bring back the church bells.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. You want to talk
Yeah.
about that, Janet? Because people forget about that, and I bet you most young people aren't even have no knowledge of it.
No, I remember as a kid, you would hear them at, early in the morning. You'd hear it at noon. You'd hear it in the evening. It was beautiful. And you would know, okay, this time I have to go home because You know, it's getting close to dark and the bells are ringing. Oh, look at that. The bells are ringing. It's a celebration. Somebody just got married. Oh, look at that. The bells are ringing. Oh, my goodness. Somebody passed.
Mhm.
And the bells are helping them to get into that other vibration of love, that higher vibration, right? Sending that higher vibration to everybody.
Oh,
Just,
if you stand near those bells, man, the power of
yeah,
that energy and vibration coming off of there, oh, it's amazing. It'll just send you off into another dimension.
well, it vibrates through your whole body.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. I used to love listening to them. I have little bells in my house, so every once in a while I'll just grab one and just ting, 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 just because it feels good.
Tinkerbell.
No, you can't call me Tinkerbell.
Um, Speaking
Yeah,
of fairies and bells, Lorianne, you were talking earlier too about music and how that makes us more present. Did you want to talk more about that?
sure. So just in connecting it with what Suzanne was saying too about that stimulus and response as well, people, right? There's a lot of worry and anxiety in the world right now. People are always like looking ahead. What's tomorrow going to be like? What's going to happen? And when we are in the present moment, all we can think about is either our breath or something that holds us here. And, that's sort of the closest a lot of us can be, right? With respect to connecting to our divinity, connecting to our higher selves. They always say, I'm saying they, um, it happens when you are just in the present moment. You're not thinking about your memories aren't pulling you back and you're not worried about tomorrow. So one of the things is music. If you're singing along with a song or you're playing an instrument, you are right there
Mhm.
and there's nowhere else for you to go. So for some people that have a hard time meditating or, using their breath or they lose their concentration, um, usually putting on some music or singing a song is something that suddenly gets you in that place of presence and connecting to a higher self, your spiritual self.
Yes, well said. And I think, music, well, everybody who listens to music has to feel it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can feel it through your whole body. It opens up your heart. Well, it depends on what you're listening to, I guess, if it's punk rock or some love song. For some people, punk rock just makes their day. So, but it's just so, yeah, it's a natural high of such an amazing vibration and joy and happiness when we're in that state. And then if you can dance around, even better. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can, it's just so important to understand if there's still some unhealed inner wounds that you need to deal with, any trauma. And, I was talking to someone earlier today, sometimes we think we've dealt with something and get on with our lives, and then something happens and it's a similar thing. You're either going to get triggered by it or you're going to go, wow, I actually did do that. But then how would you ever know that you accomplished it unless that event happened? So it's a godsend in one way, right? Sometimes we don't know
Right.
all the negative things, but sometimes without those happening, we don't know that we've actually grown and developed and changed. So um yeah, the skunk. What the skunk? Took another animal to, yeah, that was just so amazing. So anybody have anything?
That's the power and healing of nature too. And
Exactly.
nature is another avenue of bringing you into the present.
Mm-hmm.
When you're walking amongst the trees and it's like you're just there.
Well,
You're
touch the
not,
trees, talk to the trees. You'll feel the
yeah.
energy of the trees. It's a beautiful thing. Um, just sitting, watching the sun come up or the sun come down. Like everyone across the planet has access to nature in some way, shape, or form. We can all, regardless of our station in life, we can all look out and look at the beautiful sky. Although we haven't had too many beautiful blue skies lately. So. But there's beauty even in the storms, I guess. So anyway. Well, this has been a fascinating show. The Wild and Wacky continues. So thank you to all who are listening. Please like, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. I wish you a fabulous rest of your day and night, wherever you are. And good night, ladies. And thank you so much for joining and sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much, Aimée. Good night.
Good night.
Night.